this isn't my normal kind of a thing. I'm usually covering entertainment news or movie reviews, things of that nature. But this one hits near and dear to me, both on a friendship level and on a personal level. And so I need to address this. Brianna Wu, as many of you know, is a public figure, I guess is the best way to put it. She's not a streamer. She came to prominence during the Gamergate era, and while I was kind of tuned in to some of the things in Gamergate, Brianna Wu was always on the periphery, so I never really paid attention to her other than that I knew that she was one of the targets of Gamergate. Since then, she seems to have been working to ingratiate herself to the online Twitter trans community and political advocacy community. She has, after sparring with Destiny, has tried to ingratiate herself into that community. She is currently at VidCon, where she's going to be doing a panel with Destiny and Vosh, and I think Keffels is going to be on that panel now too. So she has made a name for herself, and she has definitely rustled some feathers. I have heard things from people for a while, even as I wasn't paying close attention to Brianna Wu, that expressed severe concern about her as a person. And it really seems to come to a head when Keffels started going after Benny Carollo. Benny Carollo was a former contributor to TYT. She famously left TYT over their transphobic turn, and she got a lot of credit for that one. But not a lot of people realize that Benny Carollo is a Marxist-Leninist and has some very, very yikesy opinions on quote-unquote socialist nations, apologia for some of the worst regimes of the 20th and 21st centuries. And she went on a debate with Charlie Kirk that she did atrociously in, and Charlie Kirk paid her $3,000 to do that. And so because of that, a lot of people started paying attention, and Brianna Wu was definitely one of those people. Now, Brianna Wu was in a group chat with probably some of the worst people on trans Twitter. These are trans medicalists who have been bullying my friends for years. Some of these people I recognize, some of these names I have personally had negative interactions with. There's one person that I see in here that is probably one of the people most obsessed with me. And these leaks look atrocious. We're going to get into them. Here we have Sissy Hippo Pub. There's 21 people in it. We don't know the total list of everybody who's in here, but here we've got Cactus. This person has been obsessing over me for quite a while. Jenny Matrix, who I think I've got... Yes, okay. Jenny Matrix. This is Jenny Matrix's pinned tweet at Heterodox Takes. Non-binary is not a real thing. Transgender is a meaningless category. Self-ID is a terrible idea. If you're not transsexual, you are not trans. Most trans activism is a complete joke. The trans movement has been hijacked and subverted by gender abolitionists. So, true scum of the highest order, not an ally, not somebody to be in bed with. And by in bed with, I do mean in a political sense. I'm not trying to do any weird things like that. But here is them posting a photo, not the most flattering photo of Benny. And Cactus says it puts the lotion on its skin. Now, if you don't know that reference, that is a reference to Silence of the Lambs, a 1991 movie starring Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins about a serial killer named Buffalo Bill, who, as the movie states, is not a true transsexual, but he wants to be. And so he kills women to collect their skins to build himself a skin suit or to become a woman. And that is who they are comparing Benny Carollo to here. Because it's an unflattering angle. And because Benny Carollo doesn't quote-unquote pass, which passing is a bullshit term anyway. I think as Mia Mulder, she's a Swedish trans YouTuber and politician, actually. I think she's a elected official in Sweden now. She said that she passes less well now than she did a few years ago, even though her appearance hasn't changed, but because trans issues are more prevalent in society now because of the right-wing focus on making trans people the boogeymen. People are now looking more for signs that somebody might not pass. And because of that, Mia Mulder, even though her appearance hasn't changed, says she passes less. Passing discourse is bullshit, and it is an assimilationist thing. Here we go. Her dress reminds me of those god-awful skirts that femboys buy. Listen, I don't care about people's fashion choices. A lot of people, especially new trans people, are just learning things. They're just trying out their fashion. They're getting into it. And there are certain cultural touchstones like in the growing trans community. You've got your blahage. I know it's pronounced blowhigh, but I prefer the blahage. You get those little things. You get the heart choker necklace. Okay, you get the dress off of Amazon. Everybody does these things. You get the folded trans flag, and you never fucking iron it because that's transphobic. There's all of these little things that are parts of the growing trans community. And as people are freshly transitioning and learning fashion, sometimes they're going to get fashion choices that you wouldn't agree with, but who fucking cares? Because this whole thing, these people have an assimilationist view of transness. Their ideal is to transition young enough that they 100% quote unquote pass, and then they can disappear and just act like they are a cis person and never have to talk about trans issues again. That is the ultimate goal for a lot of these people. And that's not possible. It's not possible for a lot of people. Some people can disappear into it, but for most, they can't. And you can't leave those people behind either. And nobody should have to pass because it's irrelevant. Because trans people deserve to exist as who they are. Her dress reminds me of those god-awful... Yeah, okay. So, please. Then Brianna says, God. And then Brianna says, this is... Yeah, okay. Olive says, no. And then Brianna says, I mean, if you're not super hot, maybe just dress normally and don't present yourself as a transvestite. You can go a long way with just being skinny and dressing normally. Dressing normally. I'm even glossing over the transvestite thing. I know it's a slur. I don't think that's the most important thing here. I use slurs. I don't use them in a derogatory sense, but I think the attitude is what matters here. This is an explicitly assimilationist view of transness, and this is going to be something that's going to continue here. Yeah, as Cy Deathful says, normal doesn't exist. There are certain cultural standards that change. It used to be women didn't wear pants at all. And by that standard, basically no trans person is living up to that standard, because every trans person I know wears pants, at least sometimes. Sometimes they wear dresses, but when you see like the turf talking point of a man in a dress, I'm like, I hang out with trans people all the time and almost never wear dresses. Everyone wears pants. So what is considered acceptable dress for somebody's gender? It is a moving target. But really what this is Brianna is saying, you are dressing like a freak. You should try to be more normal. And fuck that. You should dress however you want. However makes you feel good, dress like that. Now, this right here, as we'll get into, has basically been... Brianna has just used this one, as we will get into her apologies, and heavy air quotes on apologies there. She's basically focused in on using the word transvestite. And I think that's fucking irrelevant. Now, I'm not trans, so I can understand other people being hurt by that word. I get it. That's bad. I don't think that's the most important thing here. I think it's the attitude. And I don't know the timeline, but I'm assuming that this part happened before this part. Because here we have Brianna. Oops. I thought I was going to zoom in more when I clicked that. Here we have Brianna saying, get in, losers. We're starting drama with Benny on Blue Sky. Which sounds to me like she's saying, get in, losers. We're starting a coordinated harassment campaign of Benny on Blue Sky. And then you see here, Queen Claire Dora. I don't know who that person is. But they say, what did he do exactly? And by he, Queen Claire Dora means Benny. I have seen Zonia, who is also in this group chat, openly saying that she doesn't believe Benny Carollo is even trans. That she thinks Benny Carollo is faking it for sexual purposes. And fuck that. In the strongest... I don't like Benny. Benny is a bad person. Benny has harmful beliefs. But Benny is who she fucking says she is. It's not your fucking place to judge who is and who isn't being authentic with their fucking identity. And we have Jenny Matrix saying, stop projecting onto other people, immediately projects onto Gami. Now, I don't know the context here. I wonder if Gami's in this one. If you don't know who Gami is, if you have ever heard the phrase trans deer in relation to doe, ironically, Gami was the one who coined that. But Gami was also the one who started the whole thing about doe, who, a dear friend, in both senses of the word. Doe is a dear friend, and doe is a dear friend. But a couple years ago, Gami had put out a tweet saying, if doe wants to identify as a deer, we should be allowed to hunt it. And Destiny retweeted that. And doe was getting harassment and death threats for quite a while because of that. And if they're bringing up Gami here, I think it's probably a safe bet that Gami's in here and that Brianna Wu knows it. Now, this is speculation. It's entirely possible that Gami's not in here. But all of these people, all of these other people who are in here, they're friends with Gami. They know who Gami is. They have supported Gami. They have done worse things than Gami sometimes. That's who Brianna Wu is associating with here. And here we have Brianna saying, I really think trans Twitter is as terrible as Gamergate, and it's the same on Blue Sky. And I actually had a tweet on this. Let me see if I can pull that up. I did not have that one pulled up. Brianna Wu says that trans Twitter is worse than Gamergaters, ignoring that the most toxic Gamergate-style bullies in the community are the ones in her group chat. The lesson she learned from Gamergate is to ingratiate herself with Gamergate-style folk like Destiny for preemptive protection. Now, I won't deny that certain sections of trans Twitter can be pretty bad. This is not an indictment of trans people. This is an indictment of Twitter and of certain subsets. But unfortunately, I think the worst subsets are coming from inside the house, Brianna. I think it's the people that you are sharing a group chat with. Zoe says, I only follow nice people on Blue Sky, no more Twitter bullshit. Man, I fucking wish. Like, Keffels has a Keffel Sky feed set up on Blue Sky, and I check that every once in a while. But when I go to the main feed on Blue Sky, like, honestly, I only go to Blue Sky now to post my stream updates, and every once in a while to name search Keffels just so I can find new deranged people to block. Blue Sky has a severe problem with MLs and with I don't even like using the word genderqueer as it is. I think just toxic bullies. There seems to have been a community built up in Blue Sky where they don't want Blue Sky to grow. They want Blue Sky to be small and their thing, and they want it to be their little safe space, but you can't have a public social media platform be a safe space. If you want a safe space, build a Discord server for your friends. In public, you are in public and you can't control who you see. Not fully. You can block people. But I remember there was discourse on Blue Sky a couple months ago because somebody had made a shitty parody account of J.K. Rowling. And it was done to mock J.K. Rowling. But people were like, there are trans people who are dying on Twitter right now and you robbed them of an invite code to Blue Sky. Like, can we calm down? Blue Sky's not that important, okay? But let's move on to the next screenshot. Oh, that was that one. Okay, now this is one that really kind of, I feel, got put on the back burner. Oh, Brianna hasn't addressed this at all, and it's pretty significant. I think it's very indicative of her general political goals and why I think she's a dangerous person, and also why I think she thinks that she's more important than she is. So she's replying to Jenny Matrix, who said, these people have spent the last 30 years using our struggle as a sort of legitimate front to push their ideology with no regard for our struggles. And Brianna says, look, I'm just speaking really honestly here, Heterodox takes, who is Jenny Matrix, probably too honestly. but I now recognize leftist culture was always going to take us here. I said nothing about the BLM riots because I didn't want the trouble. What didn't you say about the BLM riots? What do you mean by that, Brianna? We know what Destiny said about the BLM riots. It's what lost him his Twitch partnership. Was it something like that? The BLM riots, if you want to call them that, were like, what, 92% peaceful? The ones that turned into riots were like almost always instigated by the police, as most of these riots are. It's cops throwing a tear canister or having a plainclothes officer go and smash some windows as a pretext. For what? And as like Martin Luther King said, a riot is the language of the unheard. I'm not here to defend actions taken in riots because it's irrelevant. Riots are at some point an inevitable consequence of social failures by the leadership of the country. And so if you take issue with individual actions that happens during a riot, fuck off and take issue with the government that created the conditions that led to said riot. And I said nothing when tankies started taking over the party because I didn't want trouble. What party have tankies taken over in this country? Tankies are irrelevant in this country. What the fuck are you talking about? And I said nothing when they took over trans stuff and said you didn't need to have trans dysphoria to be trans. Who is they when she says they took over trans stuff? Does she mean tankies? Because I will tell you that gender liberation, while I have seen tankies who espouse gender liberatory talking points, they aren't the only ones. Doe is, famous gender abolitionist, gender liberationist. Doe is the furthest thing from a tanky. Doe's like I don't even know how you could classify Doe's politics at this point. But I think you'll generally find that gender liberation is far more prevalent among anarchist circles. Nardia says she's talking about the gender abolitionists. Well, obviously she's talking about the gender abolitionists, but like when she just says they, from the previous sentence of when Tanky started taking over, and she doesn't clarify that she's talking about a new group, it implies that she means tankies are the ones who did gender abolition. But like, no, it really seems like anarchists are far more in that camp. And I'm looking at where we are, and it's just like, my silence led us here. All of ours did. We did it with great intentions, but if we don't stop this bullshit, leftism will die. You're not a leftist, Brianna. You're a liberal. If we don't stop leftism will die. Yeah, the call's coming from the upstairs extension. Brianna, you are the one trying to kill leftism. You're a liberal. You think so highly of yourself that your silence caused the BLM riots and tankies. But then, here we go over here. I think because I'm old enough to remember when we moved away from transsexual, I'm a bit more nuanced. More nuanced? I don't think you are. I think you actually have less nuance. We'll see. You have to remember, daytime TV was obsessed with the sex and transsexual, so it was trying to water that down. I do think that as transgender doesn't mean anything clinically anymore, it makes sense to bring it back. Now, I have seen other people argue this. Nominal Naomi, who I tend to have a pretty high opinion of. She's, she is a debate streamer, trans streamer, does phenomenal debates. She's basically like, watching her stuff brings me back to like, the heyday of like 2019 and 2020 when debate on Twitch was actually interesting. And she does make the transsexual transgender distinction. Now, I'm not trans, so my opinion on that, wait for what you will. I don't really think I have a strong opinion one way or the other on the use of these terms, other than most people I see who use the term transsexual tends to be anti-queer. Nominal Naomi absolutely is not. Nominal Naomi is fucking based. I love her content. She's great. But I don't think that this is the kind of argument that Nominal Naomi is talking about when she makes a distinction between people who are transgender and also specifically wish to have sexual reassignment surgery and HRT and stuff like that. And I've even seen Vosh make similar arguments to this. But yeah, I don't think that Brianna cares about trans people who don't fit into the neat little box, the idea that she had of them growing up in the 90s. I think her ideology is stuck there. I don't think she has made any growth since then. I think she has been pretended to be open about it because of her political aspirations and because she wants to be seen as, you know, the leading progressive voice as she is building Rebellion Pack and making coalitions with Vosh and Destiny. I think she wants to be seen as like the paragon, the advocate for trans issues. But she doesn't advocate for trans issues because there's a whole class of trans people that she doesn't seem to think count, or does, depending on how she phrases it that day or who she's talking to and how public the conversation is. And that brings us to this last screenshot, which is the most personal one to me. This includes a tweet of hers, which I think she put out right before these screenshots were leaked. Just wanted to put on the record that I unequivocally support non-binary people, and anyone that says otherwise is lying for clout. So, we have here, Brianna says, I think socially I have no issue respecting their pronouns. That's going to be a lie in 2 seconds. Cactus says, like, the nippleless top surgery fad seems like a massive red flag. Brianna says, yeah, who fucking cares? If somebody doesn't want a nipple, that's their nipple, it's not your nipple. Don't obsess over it. Cactus says, I hate them for pushing the pronoun bullshit so far. Brianna says, fair, it's insanity. She couldn't even go 1 page before saying, I have no issue respecting their pronouns, it's insanity. And we have here Olive Oath with a whole bunch of fanfiction about Doe. Now, these people have been harassing Doe for fucking years. Doe has done nothing to them. Doe has done nothing to anybody. Doe's barely on Twitter. Doe likes to read a lot and hang with its friends and write, and it's mostly just off the internet these days. It has done nothing to any of these people except exist as a faggot. And they don't like that it exists as a faggot. Doe didn't detransition because it still considered itself trans. I know they're misgendering it, but I'm going to try not to. But agender and believe trans is an amorphous blob of a term that means a political statement against the societal concept of gender, but it has stopped taking hormones because it also believes hormones are a weapon of societal construction of gender assimilation, and hormones should be a tool to be played with, not a medical usage, because all gender should be abolished. As far as I can tell, this is all fan fiction. I am real-life friends with Doe. I do not know anything about Doe, about Doe's current HRT usage or non-usage. As far as I'm aware, Doe has said nothing of the sort. This is all headcanon from a bunch of A-logs. If you don't know what an A-log is, it's a term from Kiwi Farms for a user who takes the information on Kiwi Farms and uses it to harass people. And that's what these people are. A lot of these people do use Kiwi Farms too. A lot of these people are just Kiwi Farms users. But even if they aren't, they're the same kind of person. As Valhalla Video says, A-logs are freaks, yes. And here's Brianna responding to all of that fanfiction by saying, no, that is not well. And then here, this right here is how I know, that is how I knew immediately when I saw these leaks that this was not faked. Because Brianna Wu is referencing a conversation with Demon Mama that I knew about. And I'd heard about it beforehand. So saying it here, I was like, yep, that happened. And here we have Brianna adding Void Zonia, saying, Void Zonia started a shitstorm tonight. Doe came up and I repeated your very plausible position that it pronouns are about a degradation fetish. Yes, Zonia has been quite cruel to Doe, as well as a billion other people. And here Zonia is in Brianna Wu's group chat, where, as we will see later, Brianna Wu describes these all as her closest binary trans friends. And here, Brianna repeated Zonia's position that it pronouns are a degradation fetish. My pronouns are he and it. I do not have a degradation fetish. I have fetishes, I'm not going to discuss them here. but degradation is not one of them. Let me tell you why. As a cis man, I have the pronoun it. It actually happened on Twitter, maybe about a year ago. Just some chud came in around my replies. And, instead of blocking him like I usually do, I humored him and I started arguing back with him. And then he called me it to try and dehumanize me, but something weird happened. I saw that and went, that fits. I like that. I went and changed my pronouns that fucking second. I updated them everywhere. I was like, that fits me. That works. That makes sense. And that's all you need. Interestingly, I used to have my pronouns listed as he, they, and it. I've dropped they because I actually don't really like being called they. I can understand people doing it just casually if they don't know your pronouns. They just generally does seem to be a fair substitute if you don't know somebody's pronouns. But it is, in general, better to know their pronouns. And when you do know their pronouns, you use them. And for people who take issue with it as a pronoun, who will say that it is a dehumanizing term, and that's why they won't respect it, because that word has just been used to dehumanize people. Well, he and she have also been used to dehumanize people, because when you misgender a trans person, when you see a trans woman, and you use he pronouns for her, you're denying her humanity, her identity. It's the same fucking thing. And we have been using it to refer to humans in casual conversations in all sorts of ways that you don't think of. Knock, knock. Who is it? It is me. I'm at the door knocking. You see a baby. What is it? A boy or a girl? Now, that's obviously very, gender heteronormative or cisnormative of us to assume that, but we call babies it all the time, and nobody would say that a baby isn't a human. Nobody would say you're dehumanizing a baby by calling it it. We just call babies it. That's very normal. Like Decibel says, are you the one that knocks? Actually, you said, are you the one that cocks? Depends. Yeah, Bill Portley says, what's its name? Yes. Yeah, we refer to babies as it all the time, and nobody would say that that is saying babies aren't human. Certainly the conservatives who like to dehumanize trans people would argue that babies are human, since they argue that fetuses are people. They, I know they don't care about babies once they're born. It's just a matter of control for women, but at least if you take their arguments at face value, it has been used all the time to refer to people in all sorts of ways that aren't dehumanizing, and we don't bat an eye at it. It is a perfectly valid pronoun. It's one of my pronouns. It is Doe's pronoun. So, here we go. Doe came up and repeated your very plausible position that it pronouns are about a degradation fetish. Demon Mama is in the GC, and I didn't know they were dating, lol. Well, then the police came and it was all over. I don't know what... I assume by the police came, I assume it means that whoever owned the GC was like, alright, stop this. Then I asked what she did for a living. That also didn't go over well. Not she. They? To imply that with Doe being the faggot that it is, what does it do for a living? None of your fucking business. But the implication there is Doe is such a freak that it's unemployable. But that's not really your concern. And I want to go over here because Brianna has definitely been trying to do damage control ever since these were leaked. And I have this image from a Discord. I won't say where it is, and I've blurred out everyone else there, but we've got Brianna here. So Brianna says, I will always call people by the pronouns they prefer. Oh, but only when it's in public then? Because they're linking this very image where Brianna goes, not she, they. And then Brianna goes, dude, can I be honest? Yeah, sure, can you be honest about why you called Benny a transvestite? I can't make any sense of Doe. I don't know this person's situation that well. You could ask it. I default to they with anyone when I don't know their gender. Brianna, you know Doe's pronouns because you're mocking them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 messages up. This is bullshit. You know it's bullshit. You know Doe's pronouns and you're not respecting them. And sure, this was a private conversation, but you know what? When I'm in private conversations with people about people that I don't like, you know what I don't do? I don't fucking misgender them. I don't do Weasley shit like, I default to they with people when I don't know their gender. You fucking know those pronouns, you piece of shit. This also reminds me of somebody else who unfairly went after Doe. And this is going to bring up some old wounds for some people, but anybody remember a streamer by the name of Riley Grace Rochong? Riley Grace Rochong was, at the time, a law school student. I think she has since graduated and gotten her law degree. But she very famously was going after Doe, pedo-jacketing Doe, and had a very long debate with Doe, which, in the span of a day, Riley destroyed her entire online career. But there was a very funny moment after Riley's debate with Doe that I saved for posterity. And it's the same fucking energy as what Brianna just said.
Yeah, she was trying to try. Well, hold on. They. Stop. Do not misgender. They.
Actually even made a meme image. Let me see if I didn't have this one ready, but I made this on my phone as a joke to send to a friend and figured I would bring that up. Wu Rushang 2028, The Nightmare Never Ends. I was trying to think up of it like dreams can happen and then like, or maybe an asterisk, nightmares are also dreams. People like this have political aspirations and it scares me because they aren't looking for trans liberation. They are looking for a very limited subset of trans people to get rights. And they think by throwing the rest of them under the bus and by focusing solely on trans medicalist perspectives, that they will be able to accomplish that. They think that so long as they've got a good, solid medical argument for the existence of trans people, that they can secure all of their rights. But Republicans don't give a shit about that. Republicans are banning trans healthcare in Florida despite the medical arguments being made for it. They aren't banning trans people in Florida because Doe calls itself it and trans deer. Doe's not a trans deer, by the way. Trans deer is just, a running community gag. But Republicans hate you because they think you're a freak. And they think you're all freaks. And you're not going to stop being a freak by throwing out the freakier ones. Republicans aren't going to stop until everybody is forced into a heterosexual marriage at 18 and divorce is illegal. So, if you think that you can secure rights for yourself at the expense of other people in the queer community, you have another fucking thing coming. Now, after all of these leaks came out, and after that initial thing that I showed from Brianna responding to people about it with that really pitiful response, let's take a look at her initial response. A few things. Some group DMs got leaked tonight and were selectively chosen to paint a completely false narrative about me not respecting NB people. If you heard our whole group chat, you'd see comments from me talking about how I think NB people are experiencing real pain. Was that before or after you were mocking Doe for being non-binary, for the way that it expresses its non-binary identity? Because it's one thing to say, yes, I respect non-binary people and I respect their pain, until you meet a non-binary person and you actually have a face and details about how somebody's gender presents that is not inside the binary. A lot of people have this idea of non-binary as the third gender. You're a man, you're a woman, or you're in between. And gender abolition says, fuck that, smash the binary. I am a fifth dimensional hyperbeing, and that's fucking valid. Sky Shark says, real pain doesn't mean you respect their identity. That's so condescending. Yes. And that speaks to the way that Brianna is actually kind of examining this situation. And it speaks to an attitude that I see in a lot of reactionary politics in minority communities, is that they identify their minority status solely through suffering. When you see TERFs talk about the horrors of childbirth and the ways that women are in danger in society and that they need safe spaces, it's because they can only discuss their womanhood in terms of suffering. Certainly, there is suffering to being a woman. Absolutely. There's more to it than that. There is joy in being a woman. There is joy in being trans. There is joy in being non-binary. And until you see that, until you start seeing people as whole beings, rather than just poor unfortunate souls who happen to have a malady afflicting them that makes them not normal, until you recognize that there is no fucking thing as normal, and we all have pain, and we all have pleasure, and we are all whole beings, and we aren't defined solely by any one of those things, you are not going to be an effective advocate for our rights as queer people, because you think it's about getting gay marriage and trans healthcare. You're not thinking about the social elements of it. You're not thinking about broader cultural realignment about the ways that we think about how people relate to each other, about the established gender norms and how to smash them, and how to find new ways of being and new ways of existing with each other. And here we go. And how, even though I don't understand it, they deserve respect, I also said they need more healthcare. This is why you should be very suspicious of things selectively edited by people with an axe to grind. They're not going to show you the parts that don't fit their agenda. And for whatever it's worth, yeah, these are selectively edited. There may very well be moments in these group chats where Brianna gives pushback to these people. We don't see that. And I have been in personal conversations with Brianna, not like one-on-one, but we're both friends of Keffels, and Keffels has a friend chat in her Discord, and we've both been in conversations there. Brianna generally seems like a pleasant person on just like a friendly level, so long as she's not, talking shit about somebody. And I'm sure there have been moments where she's given some pushback. That's about the limit of the charity that I'm going to give here. We don't see that, and she doesn't offer any examples of it, which, of course, if she did, would mean leaking more DMs. I respect NB people. I will call you by whatever pronouns you prefer. And I'll vote for whatever politician that will give you more rights. Anyone that says otherwise is lying. My record is nothing but allyship. Now, I want you to notice this. Do you know what this icon is? This icon means that there are hidden replies. Let's take a look and see what the hidden replies are. What did she not want people to see in this thread? You didn't make unkind comments. You called her a transvestite. You were caught using transphobic slurs. It's only cool when I do it. When anyone else does it, it isn't. You are a hypocrite and a liar and have been so probably your entire adult life. Too bad your mask fell off, and it's the screenshot of her calling Benny a transvestite. After seeing you mocked a furry trans person and said that NB people are politically inconvenient, none of the screenshot really surprised me. You really don't care for anything but optics and liberation for the good and normal trans people. Yeah, we haven't even touched on that. So there had been there was a trans furry person who was posting like little posters saying like trans rights now, and it had a trans flag and it had their fursona on it. And Brianna Wu made a tweet. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can pull that one up. This is Brianna mocking it. Putting up Final Fantasy VIII posters all over town to combat FF8 phobia. And I said, how is this functionally different from an attack helicopter joke? Because it isn't. It's just an attack helicopter joke. Ironically, that famous debate between Demon Mama and RGR where they had a falling out, that whole thing started because one of RGR's community members had made a meme. They made a fake thumbnail for an RGR video that said RGR says furry rights. And RGR showed up in chat and Demon Mama said, that's based. And RGR's like, oh yeah, no, that was a meme edit. And then came on. And one of the first things RGR said was, no, I actually don't support furry rights. I think furries are kind of a canary in the coal mine. Canary, would that be what is the term for bird furries? Is it featheries? I know like reptiles are like scalies. If I ever got a fish sona, that would be a scaly, right? I mean, I have a fish sona, but like I'm talking like, like furry artists draw it, with the big dick. But yeah, no, furries are basically all queer. And I think if you are shitty to furries, I think it's a pretty good indicator of where your politics lie in terms of queer liberation. Congrats on joining Gamergate, even if it took a few years. Welcome and hope you continue to enjoy 2014 Part 9. These DMs clearly show a lack of allyship. You are not having a conversation to learn or understand or even debate. You are demeaning, minimizing, and being petty. These are really shitty messages. Toxic. You retweeted someone less than 12 hours ago whose pinned tweet says non-binary people don't exist. Yes. Okay, so right here. She retweeted Jenny Matrix, that awful person, this whole situation in a nutshell. This you? The most based thing ever. Retweeting a meme saying the most base thing ever in response to all of these fucking DM leaks. Now, Brianna has since unretweeted this, but the internet remembers. The North remembers. And, you know, she retweeted it, but she certainly wanted to hide somebody who was pointing out that she retweeted it, even though she retweeted it. She puts it on her front page. You retweeted someone less than 12 hours ago whose pinned tweet says non-binary people don't exist. I have no idea what this is about, but in general, you can't say what you said was selectively chosen to paint a completely false narrative while also liking and retweeting stuff that says that those selectively chosen things were based. Do you stand by it or not? This is a perfectly reasonable question to ask. Brianna has been completely unprincipled and incoherent like this for a while. She'll say some of the most awful crap and then try to get slippery about it. She's lying to her audience about what she really believes. Yes. Actually, I think I need to pull up an example of this. Here we have Zonia saying, transgender is a trendy, low-effort identity to adopt when you want to no longer be seen as a privileged white suburbanite who suffers only first-world problems. Transsexual is a temporary label to denote that one is going through medical transition from one sex to the other. And shows Benny as an example of what she calls transgender, and shows Contra as an example of what she calls transsexual. Now, ContraPoints has, at times, described herself as an old school transsexual, and like I said, we can get into the discourse on transgender versus transsexual and the context and uses for that. But the point of Zonia's tweet here is to discredit Benny as a trans person. And Brianna's response is, no, Zonia, no, don't tweet it, no! Now, the literal text is, don't tweet this, but the context of Hank Hill, or sorry, not Hank Hill, Jesus Christ. He's yelling Hank. Why would I say Hank Hill? That's, oh, Bobby, don't yell, don't say that. No, this is Walter White yelling at Hank. No, but the context of this tweet is usually when an oomphy that you really like has said something a little edgy, and you jokingly are like, ooh, that's a little far, my oomphy, but I'm still friends with you. So this is the context of how Brianna is responding to Zonia discounting Benny as a trans person. Jessica says, damn it, Bobby, I told you not to do a transphobia. And so I responded, this is disgusting that you're acting like this is simply a too edgy joke. And Brianna said, I literally said, don't tweet this. Is my meaning not clear? This is patently dishonest. She's acting like the words don't tweet this exist in a vacuum that is wholly devoid from the rest of the context. Like, she doesn't know what this meme means. Now, she's a bit of a boomer, but I'm sorry, she's very terminally online. She knows the context of this. Zonia is in her group chat, and as we will see in a later tweet, she says that this group chat is full of her closest binary trans friends. So she's not giving pushback here. She is doing the kind of thing that I would do in response to a friend of mine maybe posting a low-tier god meme. So when they go, well, she'll say some of the most awful crap and then try to get slippery about it, this is exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. And then Shoe on Head shows up. Shoe, one of my favorite people on the internet. Shoe's great, don't you agree? She's, always got the right takes. Like when she said that you'll never catch her defending social transition for kids. And Shoe says, nah, you were spitting some of those caps. The amount of left-wing YouTubers, streamers, large Twitter accounts, trans and cis who agree with you, but like you have not said anything publicly is hilarious. Not my place to go out there, but inshallah they grow a spine one day. And Brianna, who said these screenshots are all taken out of context and I don't stand by this kind of behavior, and obviously I respect my NB things. Well, as soon as Shoe says, no, you're right and you should say it, Brianna says, the thing is, all of us are having private conversations concerned about how anything but the most maximalist position will get you in trouble. And you're right, this isn't going to stop until we say this stuff publicly. So, which is it, Brianna? Are these taken out of context and they don't reflect your true feelings on non-binary people, that you actually do respect non-binary people? Or is this stuff that you're just too afraid to say out loud, but Shu gave you permission? So you're like, no, you're right, we should say it. Here we go. Brianna Wu's first actual quote-unquote apology, because the previous one, this thread, was not an apology whatsoever. This was entirely her defending herself. This is her first apology. I admit, I should not have used that word to describe Benny's outfit in that OnlyFans picture, even privately with some of my closest trans friends. Closest trans friends. These people like Zonia, and Jenny Matrix, and Cactus, and possibly Gami, are her closest trans friends. Brianna, who has been in the queer community for decades, and her closest trans friends are a bunch of 20-something miserable trans medicalists who have spent far too long on 4chan and have the TTTT brain rot. Those are her closest trans friends. I apologize without reservation. She had been attacking me viciously for days, but even then, I should have been kinder. I am sorry. So this is a big mistake right off the bat. When you are doing an apology, you don't throw in justifications. If you are trying to be sincere in your apology, this is just genuine advice for Brianna. Don't do this part. I don't believe this is an apology for 1 second, but assuming that it is an actual apology, don't do this. If you are truly apologetic, you aren't going to qualify it. That qualification can come out later. People can ask about, well, why did you do it in the first place? And I'm like, yeah, no, they were being shitty to me. But when you are issuing the apology, particularly with locked replies, so this is more a PR statement than anything, well, you should make it look like an actual apology. And when you qualify it like this, it makes it not an apology. And as I have said, I don't think the issue with that screenshot was the word transvestite. It certainly is an issue. And I might be missing the broader implications of that term as a slur, because I am cis. But I still don't think, even if it were as bad as the N-word, that it is the only thing to take away from that screenshot. I think the general attitude of judging Benny's appearance, to begin with, was a huge issue. And also, this is an aside, that's not the most flattering photo of Benny, but I don't think Benny's unattractive. I actually think Benny's quite attractive. I don't like Benny. I think she's a pretty bad person. But I think this is just catty behavior, which, you know, some people are using to excuse it as just catty behavior, but I think it's worse than that. I think it is anti-queer. I think it's transphobic. Even if you didn't use the word transvestite, it's still transphobic. But yeah, even then I should have been kinder. Yes, you are fully allowed to dislike Benny. I dislike Benny. I don't think Benny is a good advocate. I think Benny defends horrible things. I think Benny defends the Holodomor, at least by implication. I haven't seen her explicitly defend the Holodomor, but she has certainly said things like there was no genocides in the Soviet Union, which is just explicitly a lie. And, you know, the Holodomor is the big one that everyone knows. There was also the forced deportation of Koreans, which most tankies haven't even heard of to defend. When I brought it up, somebody's like, what the fuck is that? And I pointed to a Wikipedia article about it, and they're like, oh, it's Wikipedia. It's, you know, Western propaganda. Yeah, no, Benny is not a good person. Benny still doesn't deserve this. Now, this was all yesterday. Or actually, 2:33 a.m. on September 27th, so that was like 2 days ago, because she was up late. This is what she put out this morning. Sincere post. I genuinely am sorry. And understand, I let a lot of people down. It's not just my opinion that NB people are part of the trans community. It's a fact. Because it's right there in the WPATH standards of care. You cannot pick and choose which parts count. So she still doesn't understand. She still just thinks it's all medical. She's just taking this from a trans medicalist perspective. Congratulations, you're like the one trans medicalist who thinks non-binary people deserve trans medicine too. Still trans medicalism. You're still saying they're valid because the WPATH says they're valid. Okay, what happens when, a political regime changes hands? Say what the Florida Board of Medicine has been doing against trans people. What happens when that takes place? And non-binary people lose the WPATH standards of care. And trans people, in general, lose the WPATH standards of care. This is not a definition that defends trans people. This is a medical organization standards of care. It does not define trans people. It does not define non-binary people. Non-binary people, trans people in general, and non-binary people are trans people, since they are not cis. They exist as holistic beings, beyond just their genitals, beyond just their hormone levels. Your gender is a part of your whole expression as a human being, whether that means you have a gender or you don't. Not having a gender also impacts how you express yourself as a human being. And it's valid because it's you, and you are valid. It has nothing to do with medicine, although having access to this medicine is very important for a lot of people, but it doesn't define them. And it's not what makes them valid. I know non-binary trans people who have never been on HRT and never will be on HRT. And that doesn't make them less valid, and it doesn't make them not trans. Because nobody would say that. Well, I mean, Republicans would say that, but I'm saying on our side, in the queer community, nobody would say that trans kids aren't trans, even if they're so young that they're not even on puberty blockers yet. They are purely socially transitioned. They are not on any medications. They're just dressing differently, or presenting themselves differently, doing different things with their hair, playing different games. However, that gender presentation comes out. Nobody would say, well, they're not trans. They still have their original genitals, because that's fucking insane. So what makes them trans? It's not the hormones that they haven't even started. It's not the puberty blockers they haven't even taken yet. They're trans because they're trans. I also just should not have used that outdated term to describe someone's outfit in an OnlyFans pic. No matter how cruel they had been to me personally, it was wrong, and I will never use that word again. This is just a restatement of her previous apology, so this means nothing. It's also true that as a public figure, I need private space to discuss issues like neopronouns, self-ID, demedicalization of transition, and the rest with trans people to figure out what I believe and where to go, but I found the wrong place to do that. Okay, so let's go with right here. As a public figure. Why are you a public figure, Brianna? In general, people choose to be public figures. Now, something might happen that make them a public figure outside of their choice, but if they don't want to remain a public figure, they will retreat. You have news stories that break about somebody, some injustice happens to them, they get their justice, or they don't. They go away and people don't think about them anymore. They cease to be a public figure. Brianna Wu became a public figure. As far as I can tell around Gamergate, I don't know what she was doing before then. She might have had some, I think she ran a Tumblr blog, right? She was a game dev, or software engineer at least. But who she is now, as the leader of Rebellion Pack, as a political organizer, she is a public figure by choice. But why? I mean, I know you've got the money. I know that's why you're doing it. You have money and you want to put it toward progressive goals, and that's an admirable aspiration, but you don't need to be a public figure to do that. There are billionaires who give a lot of money to progressive causes that you don't know their names. They may be billionaires, but they aren't public figures. And that's not to say I like billionaires. I don't. I do like it when billionaires give money to progressive causes. It's certainly the least they can do. But just being a financier does not make you a public figure. Brianna doesn't just want progressive policies. She wants to be the one to do the public policies. Like Riley Grace Rochong before. Riley Grace Rochong, she's not in the, she was doing a dual JD and MPP, Masters of Public Policy. She wasn't in this to be a lawyer, she's in this to be a politician. Riley Grace Rochong wants to write law and to pass law, and she wants to be the one to do it. And Brianna Wu wants the credit for organizing and getting things done, because it's not enough for her to organize and get things done. She has to be seen doing it. Vidya says she's the savior of humanity in her own mind. Certainly seems that way. Brianna Wu says, I'm going to start a much smaller trans group chat, include NB people, not invite anyone that's not mature and thoughtful, and surround myself with healthier people. And again, I am sorry, I apologize without reservation. I mean, I think it's a good move for her to surround herself with more mature people. But if she's creating the group chat, she's still going to be ultimately the arbiter of who is or is not a mature and thoughtful person. Certainly, she's not going to include somebody like Doe, because she doesn't think Doe is a mature and thoughtful person. She thinks Doe is a freak who forces its fetish on other people by having pronouns. And while Brianna can do this, can surround herself with better people to better educate her on queer issues, she doesn't need to be a public person to do that. She can do that private. She can be friends with people, learn things from them. She doesn't have to do it in public. She doesn't have to be the one to save us. She's not going to save us. She's not here for us. She is not here for the queer community at large. She's a transmet. She wants rights for people who fit basically Blanchard's typology. I mean, not to say that she holds to the whole, AGP HSTS thing. I haven't seen her explicitly say that, but effectively, what's the difference? She thinks trans rights are about medicalization, because here we see right here, NB people are part of the trans community because it's in the WPATH standards of care. Brianna, I can't help but notice one thing in all of these apologies that you've put out, all these statements that you've put out. There's one thing that you didn't apologize for. There's one thing you didn't address. It's anything in this screenshot. It's anything about Doe. It's anything about its pronouns. There were 2 people in these screenshots that you directly addressed. Well, 3 if you're going to include Demon Mama, although she was ancillary to the topic of Doe, because Demon Mama is Doe's partner. Doe is owed an apology. Doe is owed the biggest apology. Doe is owed the kind of apology that you give when you have no expectation of the other person accepting it. Doe is owed the kind of apology where you throw yourself at its feet and beg for forgiveness, knowing you're not going to get it. Doe's a very kind person. If Brianna was sincere in an apology with actual evidence that she is working to change her ways and grow as a person, I can't speak for Doe, but I think Doe would probably accept that. If it was sincere and it showed real remorse and real attempts at restitution and growth, I don't think we're going to get that. Because I don't believe Brianna Wu is sorry about any of this. I think she's sorry she got caught. I think Brianna is two-faced. I think she says one thing to somebody in one situation and then forgets that she said it conveniently later. I know that she has conveniently, multiple times, forgotten about all of the years-long harassment campaigns that Destiny has led, especially against Doe. I know Brianna has pretended to not even know who Doe is. We have this tweet. A minute ago, Brianna was the kind of person I want to like, who makes it difficult by constantly saying dumb shit, but disliking Doe is enough to stomp out whatever shred of charitability I held. That's always a huge red flag. Brianna says, I have literally no idea who Doe is. Please don't listen to people who just make shit up. We didn't make this up. I don't believe any of what Brianna Wu has put out as an apology for this. Now, Brianna Wu is currently at VidCon, which means she's got a lot on her plate. She has panels to do and appointments to make and people to meet. So she can't dedicate the necessary amount of time to addressing this. But VidCon's going to be over after the weekend. And I hope she takes a long, deep look at her soul afterwards, issues a full apology to Doe and to everybody else hurt by these leaks. That's much better than this bullshit. And then I hope she goes off the internet. She's not going to, of course. You know, it would be nice. It would be nice to see. Because she's not in this for trans liberation. She's in this for her ego. And she's willing to stab a lot of people in the back to get there. I don't trust her. Nobody should trust her. And if you find yourself in a position where you are in coalition with her toward a greater political end, please watch your back. I can understand sometimes for certain political projects making sure that you get the vote out making sure that Republicans don't institute fascism in this country, that sometimes you have to pinch your nose and work with people you hate to get people you hate less than Republicans elected. But be aware that when you coalition with Brianna to do that, she's using it to build her brand because she wants, above all else, power.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm trying to get my channel monetized, so your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. I stream every Monday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Ryan D. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.